Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday service for September 20th of 2020 for Unity Clear Lake Center. I'd like to begin our service this morning with the lighting of our Christ candle. So I have our beautiful candle right here beside us. And we'll just light our candle for this morning. So I invite you to close your eyes. Take a beautiful deep breath in. Go to that place inside where Spirit rejoices within you. And we just say thank you, sweet Spirit, for being present in all of our lives, constantly and consistently, with everything that we're doing, everything we're thinking, everything that happens around us. You are in charge of our lives. We surrender to you. We ask the universe to just be present within each and every moment that we have, and with all the blessings of the universe that we're able to receive. And for that, we say thank you, sweet Spirit. Amen. And now let's begin our day today with our first song, which is Thank You for This Day, Spirit, by Karen Drucker. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for my friends, Spirit, thank you for my friends. Thank you for my friends, Spirit, thank you for my friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. Thank you for my friends, Spirit, thank you for my friends. Thank you for my friends, Spirit, thank you for my friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. Thank you for my health, Spirit, thank you for my health. Thank you for my health, Spirit, thank you for my health. My radiant, my radiant, my radiant health. My radiant, my radiant, my radiant health. Thank you for my life, Spirit, thank you for my life. Thank you for my life, Spirit, thank you for my life. My glorious, my glorious, my glorious life. My glorious, my glorious, my glorious life. Thank you for my wealth, Spirit, thank you for my wealth. Thank you for my wealth, Spirit, thank you for my wealth. My opulent, my opulent, my opulent wealth. My opulent, my opulent, my opulent wealth. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Oh, thank you. Thank
you for this day, Spirit. And now let's join together in saying our invocation affirmation. There is only one presence and one power active in my life, God the good, omnipotent. There is only one presence and one power active in Unity Clear Lake Center, God the good, omnipotent. There is only one presence and one power active in our world, God the good, omnipotent. And our mission affirmation, Unity Clear Lake Center is committed to loving all and empowering people to transform their lives through the practice of universal spiritual principles and the energy of God's love. And our 5 basic ideas of unity, God is absolute good, everywhere present. Human beings have a spark of divine spirit within them, the Christ consciousness within. Therefore, they are inherently good. Human beings create their experience by the activity of their thinking. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. Prayer is the process that affirms our connection with God-mind and brings forth wisdom, healing, and everything good. Knowing and understanding universal laws, also called truth, are not enough. A person must also live the truth that he or she knows. And now, if we can sing Surely the Presence.
See his face.
And now, if you'll join with me in saying our Lord's Prayer. Our Father, Mother God, who art in heaven, hallowed is thy name. Thy kingdom has come. Thy will is done, on earth as it is in heaven. You give us each day our daily bread. You've forgiven us our debts, as we have forgiven our debtors. You leave us not in temptation. You have delivered us from error. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. And now some special music, God Is, by Karen Drucker.
God is life and I am life. God is life and I am life. God is light and I am light. God is light and I am light. God is joy and I am joy. God is joy and I am joy. God is love and I am love. God is love and I am love. God is peace and I am peace. God is peace and I am peace. God is beauty and I am beauty. God is beauty and I am beauty. God is power and I am power. God is power and I am power. God is good, yes, God is good. God is good, yes, God is all these things. God is all these things. I am all these things. God is all these things. I am all these things. God is all these things. I am all these things. God is all these things. I am.
God is so good. I invite you to sit back and take a deep breath, close your eyes, while we have the reading of our daily word. I'm going to read from Monday, September 21st of 2020. The word is forgive. Through forgiveness, I am free. When I seek to lighten the heaviness of my soul and heart, I consider what forgiveness work I may need to do to feel free. Forgiving does not mean condoning another's behavior or pretending that it didn't hurt. Rather, it's a process to facilitate my healing and increase the lightness of my spirit. Forgiveness does not have to involve seeing or speaking to the person I need to forgive. Perhaps that is possible only through a soul-to-soul silent exchange. I rely on divine love and wisdom in me to guide me through my forgiveness practice. Every step I take leads me to free myself of the weight that I have been carrying. I go forward lighter and ever ready to live more fully refreshed and invigorated. And from Ephesians chapter 4, verse 32, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ has forgiven you. Forgiveness. Through forgiveness, I am free. So thank you once more again for being here today. My talk this morning is from a new book by Matt Kahn, The Universe Always Has a Plan, The 10 Golden Rules of Letting Go. The first chapter is You've Done Nothing Wrong, and the second chapter is If Someone Still Blames You, They Are Not a Happy Person. When we're children, we are taught to determine right from wrong, mostly by the reactions of others. The problem is it can cause us to actually have a codependent viewpoint on life because we're always measuring who we are by the reactions of others. While that can be good in some respects, the rest of the time, it can cause us to actually dishonor who we truly are. If one person can accept us for who and what we are, that gives us the complete freedom to be ourselves. However, if a person in authority doesn't accept us for who and what we are, then that gives us a completely mixed message of how we can be in the world. So what begins to happen as we mature is we begin to see people from a different standpoint. We stop seeing our parents as complete authoritarians. And as we mature, we can even begin to understand the pains and sorrows that our parents went through, and for some may still be going through, which of course is affecting their viewpoint on life. So as we mature, we can actually mature out of viewing life through their viewpoint and begin to see things through our own viewpoint. As we mature, we actually evolve from one spectrum of seeing things to an entirely new perception of life. Part of our challenge here is that we're not just human beings on this earth. And I know that for most of us, I'm speaking to the choir, most of you already know that, but we are spiritual beings evolving from one spectrum of perception to another spiritually. And while what seemed true when you were younger, even in your beginning years of your spiritual development, now as a much more mature person, you actually understand the non-truth of many of those things from your younger days. So for many, as we mature physically, we also begin to understand that if we're in a physical body, then we're also on a spiritual journey. In fact, we're all on a spiritual journey because we exist on this earth. You know, constantly throughout this journey, we are going to see life one way, and then we're going to have some type of an expansion causing us to see life differently. And what we need to understand, though, is that we're always going to see each moment from the highest level of consciousness available to us at that particular moment. The largest transition there is the transition out of ego and into the soul's knowingness. So we can either see life from the ego's perspective or from the soul's perspective. If we want to look at it through the ego's point of view, for most of us, we can view life as we look at our past as a form of regret. We wish we would have done things differently, said things differently, been a different person, not done this, not said that. However, where the ego regrets things, the soul actually rejoices at an opportunity. The soul would say, I now know more than I knew before. And how great is that I'm here at this time today. I had to see it the way that it was meant to be seen at the time. I had to be who I was at that point, and I needed to, everything that needed to happen in order to get me to this moment where I've been gifted now with a greater perspective. I am so glad I went through everything I did. I know this was a hard one to understand, but we have to understand that our soul is saying that all of this is a miraculous plan the universe has for us. For some, we've been so busy going and doing things, especially right now at this time in this pandemic and everything, that the universe just might be saying to some of us that it's time to stop and take time for your communion with me, meaning with Source. For some of us, we're becoming frustrated, we become irritated very easily, we go into fear, anxiety, and then we can start blaming ourselves for having these feelings, and we can begin to judge ourselves. And part of the challenges of living in these times that we're living in right now is that if we say some of these things to other people, we can actually hear them say to us, oh, you shouldn't be feeling that way. Stop thinking that. But Matt writes that if you can just take any moment in your life where you can remember really regretting something and just sit with those uncomfortable feelings, you are going to become aware of a deeper cosmic order to life that came into your life at that time. In the book, Matt writes, no amount of regret can reshape the past that was only here to serve you. He goes on to write, in order to realize the truth of the statement, you did nothing wrong, you need to use self-compassion, one of the soul's attributes, to shift out of regret and into rejoicing. So the first golden rule of letting go is self-compassion. Self-compassion is the ability to be easy with yourself. It's the opposite of harshness. It's a moment of growth that requires no punishment, condemnation, or criticism in order to learn from your actions. Self-compassion says, can you take one moment and be the nicest, most supportive, and open-minded person that you are encountering right now? Can you do this for yourself? Can you meet yourself as an ally instead of an enemy? Can you turn inward and say to yourself, hello, friend, how can I be here for you today? Self-compassion is when you are attentive to yourself. It begins with accepting that you don't have to necessarily know exactly what is right about every moment of your life, but that you know, if you're coming from your heart, that you've done nothing wrong, no matter what others say to you or how they treat you. As we go through life, and we're truly taking this life as a learning ground, then we are getting better and better and better than we've ever been. That doesn't mean that the way you were in the past was right or wrong. It means that whatever you did in the past, you were doing it from the highest consciousness available to you at that time. In order to get to this stage in your evolution, where you are right now, you and everyone else had to be exactly the way you were. From that perspective, every gift of expansion is life thanking you for playing the exact role in every person's life, whether or not you were the most popular person in the room or likable, or whether you liked the person that you were in contact with. You see, it's impossible to see what is right in your reality if you keep focusing on the things that you've done wrong. Because the ego perceives through beliefs of reward and punishment. It insists that you must punish yourself if others report some sort of wrongdoing on your part. In other words, if someone is judging you or condemning you for anything. At the same time as you are beginning to understand that you've done nothing wrong, it also means that others have not done anything wrong for having their own perceptions of their experience. You might not have done anything wrong, but neither has anyone else, no matter what they've done. And this brings us to looking at forgiveness. To the eyes of the universe, you don't need to project wrongdoing onto yourself or others in order to offer the gift of forgiveness. Matt writes that at the highest level of forgiveness is a matter of acknowledging that those who have made an indelible impression upon your history have only set you in a direction toward the arrival of your highest destiny. It's easy to say thank you for the pleasurable experiences others provide, but it's an entirely different paradigm to slowly move in the direction of authenticity, thanking everyone for their contribution to your journey, even when their actions were the opposite of the love that you in your innocence wanted and needed. This level of forgiveness or unconditional love exists outside the domain of the ego. The ego doesn't want to forgive. It wants to judge. It wants to condemn. But since you're telling yourself now that you've done nothing wrong, it also isn't wrong to refuse forgiveness for the action of others. As Matt writes, you must have the right to withhold forgiveness in order to build up the courage to offer it. Because once offered, you will see how willingness to forgive the actions of others helps you transcend the entire cycle of victimhood. Forgiveness can be looked at as meaning, as Matt writes, thank you for giving me the opportunity to act from a greater level of awareness than the unconsciousness that hurt me. Matt shares a time when he was in his early 30s and he was sitting in his living room contemplating the true meaning of forgiveness. He said that at that moment he was flooded with visions of his past, from scenes of being yelled at by his parents to moments of being bullied in school, and much, much more. He said that usually these images would inspire frustration, anger, humiliation, pain, and a sense of unfairness. But he said that this time he saw them from a much different standpoint. He said it was as if he were witnessing it from a distance, like someone in a movie theater. And as he reviewed all the people that had wronged him, he began seeing each moment of hurt as a setup for greater evolution. He wrote that he saw how each person had intersected one another's paths in order to come out the other end, more healed, more expanded, and more evolved than they were before. He said that his role was to have every reason to harbor grudges within his logical mind so that he could justify why it was only fair to condemn each character as an enemy. He said that this would be the very beliefs he would be giving up, given the chance to surrender, including the notion of being vulnerable to future attacks if his ego wasn't just constantly standing guard. He wrote that he saw by forgiving each person, he was actually instilling in himself an even greater and higher vibration of consciousness than the impulses that caused others to mistreat him. So in doing this, he realized he was sending waves of energy throughout the cosmos to be delivered into their energy fields, to inspire a deeper emotional resolve within them. He wrote that he saw how his willingness to forgive each character actually made them more heart-centered over the course of their lifetime, to decrease the likelihood that anyone else in their life, including themselves, would be harmed in any way. He wrote that it was from this standpoint that he felt less like a person wronged by others and more like one of their guardian angels. He wrote that he felt like he was merely playing the character they wronged for the chance to give them the gift of higher consciousness. That when seeing himself from this perspective, how we had the opportunity to give the greatest gift of healing to those who inflicted the most pain upon him, he said that something collapsed in his mind. He was no longer limited by any belief in fairness or an eye for an eye. He said instead he rejoiced in his willingness to be bigger than the pain and persecution that he felt, by giving to another exactly what they needed to grow beyond the desire to hurt others as a result of their unresolved wounds. And that was the gift of the higher consciousness of forgiveness. He said that in this way he felt as if he was acting as the universe in form, instead of from a belief in being a character who needed others to hurt for the pain they caused. He said that this moment of bringing radical forgiveness to the abusers of his reality actually became the moment when all of life seemed to conspire to support him in miraculous ways. He said he realized that he didn't attract abusive encounters because he did something wrong. They occurred to usher him into a depth of transcendent forgiveness that he was now ready to accept. He wrote that in being willing to forgive the seemingly unforgivable, he transcended the cycle of victimhood, which has, since that moment, rendered him free from perpetrators and abusers. And this level of forgiveness has become instinctive on his part. Matt wrote that if self-compassion is the attribute cultivated in this first rule, then the forgiveness is a willingness to allow equal compassion to all hearts, no matter the roles they are playing. So even if you can't reach that level of forgiveness, just always remember you have done nothing wrong. And even if you still find yourself judging another, you are still doing nothing wrong. Just remember to be the first recipient of your self-compassion and allow forgiveness to spread from you on out in its own time frame. First to yourself for judging another, and then to those who are playing their role in your evolution. Something to remember in this whole game of life is that as much and as often as you forgive another, and as much and as often you are raising your vibration to a much higher level to be out from under any traumas that another is inflicting on you. That doesn't mean that the other person will take your forgiveness or stop blaming you for something. One of the things that helps us move to that aspect of self-compassion and forgiveness is to remember the second golden rule, that anyone who blames you isn't a happy person. Matt asked the question, how many times in your life have you blamed yourself for something while you were in a state of happiness? Or how many times have you blamed anything or anyone when you were in a state of happiness? See, neither of those are actually possible because you really can't blame anyone if you're happy. At our core, we are sensitive, heart-centered beings, that the thought that anyone who blames us is unhappy can kind of feel like a sort of blame in itself. But such an acceptance is not actually a judgment, it's an awareness. Matt writes that to see that someone who blames you, or when you're blaming someone else, is because of their relationship with happiness or unhappiness. And it's to see through the eyes of forgiveness. He states that forgiveness is the grace of compassion in action. It's not just accepting an apology, right? Matt writes that it is the willingness to respond to hurt by saying, I'm sorry that your unhappiness has caused you to treat me this way. It's recognizing that they are unhappy for some reason at this moment in time. That on the soul level, it's their way of saying, I'm terribly unhappy, and my conduct is to show you how unhappy I am. So when we or another are in a state of blaming, and as we begin to awaken and notice where we are blaming, we come to the insight that at some level, in some part of our being, we're being happy. Maybe it's because we don't know how to be happy under all circumstances. We all know at some level that happiness comes from within ourselves, but the confession of not knowing how to be happy in some circumstance actually helps us to acknowledge that we're relying on outside circumstances, characters, or outcomes as the main source of our happiness. For most of us, we look at outside validation through other people for whether we can be happy or not. If we're with someone and they seem upset with us for some reason, our happiness level can drop. Or if we're feeling unhappy and we're with someone who is uplifting for us, our happiness level goes up. But can it stay up as we move throughout our day? If we have a sense of happiness inside, this is where we look at the outside events going on that then we blame for why we feel so happy. Matt has a statement in the book, and this is what he wrote. The moment you blame, you've turned away from the vibration of happiness within you. So what if you simply dared to not blame those who choose to blame you? What if you didn't divide yourself from whatever degree of happiness you have in your life by blaming those who are blaming you? Matt writes that this is how we begin to break the cycle of abuse in our lives. The challenging part is that we tend to blame only in the areas where we don't feel truly fulfilled. If you're not happy in your work, you blame your boss or your coworkers. You're not happy at home, you blame your partner or the kids or whatever. If you're not happy with how you were raised, you blame your parents. It just goes on and on. No matter what the projection we're putting out as to who's to blame, instead of blaming, forgiveness says, I am sorry that your unhappiness causes you to be this way with me. I'm sorry your unhappiness inspires you to steal some of my happiness. I cannot make you happy in any way. I can only help you remind yourself how unhappy you already are. This takes the blame off of them, and it takes the blame off yourself for feeling as if you've done something wrong. You see, those who are happy are the most willing to forgive. Therefore, it's the cultivation of forgiveness that allows you to recognize, feel, and demonstrate the happiness that is already within you. When situations happen and you're able to really be in the truth of your forgiveness, you're actually saying from your soul to another, what you did is not okay, but I don't blame you. Since forgiveness, as Matt writes, is a cornerstone of happiness, the forgiveness you offer another helps energetically break the cycles of abuse in both of your lives. And as a result of that, it ushers in greater happiness for the one doing the forgiving and the blessings of emotional healing for the person being forgiveness. Forgiveness is actually a way of refusing to store someone else's unhappiness in your cellular body as memories of mistreatment. So each time you forgive, the imprint of someone's unconscious acts that have been left in your body is cleared out and returned to their own energy field as a blessing of evolution. Matt writes that from this standpoint, the act of forgiving helps not only to free others from the unhappiness causing them to be withdrawn, shut down, or lash out, but to also free you from walking this earth as someone's victim. So from this aspect of understanding, forgiveness is not passive submission, but is actually an active form of liberation in action. So I would like us to go into a time of meditation now. So I'm going to just invite you to close your eyes and take a nice deep breath in and slowly let it out. Just allow yourself to really sink into the chair or the couch that you're sitting on. And now take another beautiful, nice deep breath in. And as you let it out, really allow your body to relax. Beginning with our golden rule number 1 for letting go, and to begin the process of infusing yourself with more compassion in your life, I invite you to say silently or out loud to yourself, in order to be who I was born to be, life couldn't have happened any other way. Just take a deep breath in, and as you let it out, see how it feels to embrace at depth an acceptance beyond anything the ego can believe. In order to be who I was born to become, life couldn't have happened any other way. Life couldn't have happened any other way. And now for rule number 2, and to cultivate the attribute of forgiveness, I invite you to say this either silently or out loud to yourself. I allow those who have blamed and have wronged me to be forgiven. In forgiving others, I am set free. I allow those who have blamed and have wronged me to be forgiven. In forgiving others, I am set free. And now just taking a deep breath and letting it out. When you're ready, just open your eyes. You know, what I've covered today in these 2 chapters is kind of just the top part of what Matt has to write. There's so much more in depth to these 2 chapters than I've even shared with you. So I invite you to get the book and read these first 2 chapters in depth and get the depth of them out for your soul's sake. It's Matt Kahn's latest book, The Universe Always Has a Plan. I am going to be sharing this book with you over the next couple months when I come, and I'll be sharing 2 chapters at a time. So I want to say thank you for joining with us today. And now I invite you to take your tithes, your gifts into your hands and hold them over your hearts. And we can just say, I give in love because I am love. Let's say that together. I give in love because I am love. Thank you, sweet spirit. And now, if you will join with me in let me find it here. I'd like us to join in saying our prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, because I am, and all is well. And now our final song for today is I Choose Love.
Peace in my life is growing because I choose love. Love's always present, it's what I'm made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one tie that binds us, that can't be undone. is what we're made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one choice unites us. Let this be the one. I choose love. I choose love. I choose
I choose love, and I know that you choose love also. Thank you all for joining with me today. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I behold the Christ in each and every one of you. Namaste, everyone. Have a beautiful, beautiful week. Much love.